Okay, as a little bonus discussion, I want to compare the color charts that we shot with the 3 films to a color calibrated and correctly profiled reference image that I took with the Canon R5. So here you see the color checker and the colors as they are supposed to look. This is a reliable digital reference in terms of color. We will now compare that briefly with our color charts from the portrait setup, just so we get an impression of the accuracy of the films. So here on the left you have again the digital reference, and on the right you have Portra 800 first of all. So let me zoom in a bit to bring the sizes more in line. There we go. So obviously you can see here on the R5 I had the second color phase as well installed, but well, for now I think it's still a really good comparison. Actually, let me slide that over. So you can straight away see that the green and blue performance of Portra 800 is super accurate. I see not a lot of difference to the digital reference, especially once you try to abstract the graininess of it. The same here for these flesh tones and these tones as well. They are really close to the digital reference. But the first big difference we see is in the red channel, which here with Portra 800 is distinctly less saturated and has a kind of like tomato appearance. The same continues here in these pink hues, which are also less saturated than the digital reference file. Also here in the orange, to an extent, you could say the same. But the biggest difference really is in that red. The Portra 800 has a tomato red appearance, which I think looks nice, but it's definitely not as accurate and as close to the digital reference. The blues, these tones here, the aqua, the cyan and so on, is, I would say, reasonably close, perhaps slightly desaturated here with Portra 800, but not night and day. The biggest difference again that I see is the red tone. Let's see how 400 fares in this regard. Again, let me bring the color checker into focus and align it here. So you can see, again, color accuracy is really good, especially in all of these patches. But once again, the red, it's slightly more tomato red than in the digital reference. However, these pinks are now better represented, I would say. They are more accurate and more close to the digital reference, and the same applies to these blue tones. So I would say Portra 400 is even closer in terms of color accuracy to a digital reference. And this is really outstanding performance if you think about it, because the R5 is a state-of-the-art sensor that was again here color profiled correctly. And yeah, it's quite amazing to see that Portra 400 is absolutely able to give you an as good color representation. So really fantastic. And I think it's also noticeable that the saturation is super similar and super comparable to the digital reference. Okay, lastly, let's look at 160 and bring it again in alignment. So here I would say you can see that Portra 160 in general is less saturated, and that is quite apparent actually here. If you compare it with the digital reference, 160 just a more muted, more chilled out color palette, super neutral, super good here in the skin tones, very accurate in the neutrals, in the grays. Again, slightly tomato tinted in the red, and again slightly less accurate and less saturated in these pinks. So I would say the color fidelity is perhaps slightly behind Portra 400. So if you wonder why people love Portra 400 and why it is often used also exclusively, is that it does actually look a little bit like a digital reference. It's probably the most high-tech film of the 3, you could argue. But I hope you found this comparison of the color charts useful as an added bonus to our discussion here.